Hi, I'm Dan from Jars of Clay. I'm going to be hosting Real Videos tonight, so I hope you stick around.
Everybody get ready. Lights, camera, action. You've tuned in to the #1 show on TBN.
Real Videos.
With real flows and pros that can rock bros with afros and kangos or headbangers. Long-haired skaters, we the show with the answers to your problems like calculators. Whether rock, ska, hip-hop, punk, or pop, it don't matter. We got funk to bump every block, so be sure to tune in, make no assuming. We got the best selection of Christian videos for your viewing. Pleasure to bless ya, whether in Russia, Asia, North or South America. What?
Hi, this is Dan with Jars of Clay. We're back on Real Videos. I've been a songwriter with Jars of Clay for about 14 years now, and one of the things that I like to do with songwriting is pay very close attention to kind of the way a song flows, the rhyme and the meter, and then also trying to create the most vivid word pictures with the least amount of words possible so they fit within the music. Well, I was able to do something else that was very similar to writing songs, and that was make a children's book. I wrote a story called The One and the Only Magnificent Me, which is the story of a little boy who doesn't feel like he measures up. And he wants to have wings and feathers and prickly things and be all different colors so that people will like him and people will think he's special. When in reality, what he comes to find out is that he only has to be magnificent and to be special. And it's a story that I think everybody can really can relate to. I think we've all been through situations where we feel like we don't measure up, like we need something added to us to give us our worth. But the reality is that we're special simply because of who we are. Well, one of the greatest things about writing a children's story is really the way the illustrations match up with the words. It's a little different. Maybe it's a lot like actually a music video, but this is really special. It was a friend of mine, Joel Schoon-Tanis, did the illustrations for this story, and he starts out with this book with not very much color. It's sort of a black and white sketch design, and it's this little boy. And as the boy starts to change and develop and become into this magnificent creature, all of this color starts to bleed into the story and the images. And but we soon find out that the horn that the boy has and the feathers and the wings and all of these things that he has are all, they're all going to fail him. And so you see in the illustrations that all of these colors start to fade again until at the end when he finds out that really his worth isn't simply being, in that final section, the images kind of come back to life again. And it's really just, there's something special the way art and a story connect like that. It's why I've always loved children's stories myself and why I think I so much enjoy writing them right now. Well, writing children's stories is a passion of mine, but kind of my first passion has really been music. And so I thought maybe we'd show one of our music videos. This is a music that has a lot to do with water. This is our music video for Work, which incorporates water yet again. As Jars of Clay, a lot of people ask us, you seem to have a fascination with water, and it does seem to be true. We've had songs Flood and Liquid and Sinking and Water Under the Bridge and Work, the video. Well, during that video for Work, we had to shoot that 6 times, and we had to shoot it entirely. So every time we would shoot the video, we'd fill the tank up and try to get the water level so it went over our heads. And if it didn't, we'd have to drain the tub, get out, dry everything off. We were in wetsuits for a couple of the shots, and then we took those off. And so just in our regular suits, we had to dry those and get makeup and hair done every single time. And we spent a lot of time in a big tank that day. Felt a little bit like aquarium creatures. And another way that we enjoy water has been helping people get clean water in Africa with Blood Water Mission. And that really started in 2002 when we had a chance to visit with people in Africa and talk to them about their communities and their culture and what they needed to help pull themselves out of poverty. There are people who walk miles and miles every single day because they don't have access to clean water. And the water that they do have access to is usually water that's filled with all kinds of diseases and bacteria. And as an artist, I believe the role of an artist is to look at the world and describe it. But sometimes it's not enough to simply describe it. We want to get our hands dirty, we want to get involved, and we wanted to try to love people well and serve people well. So we started a campaign called the 1,000 Wells Project, and it builds clean water wells in Africa. And since 2002, when we started working on that, we've been able to help provide water for about 250,000 people. And it's also kept us connected to real stories of people who have had to rely on God to show up every single day for the most basic kinds of needs. I think it's one of the reasons we're still able to write songs and still be able to be passionate about what we do in our art, is that we're still connected to real people. Hey, I'm Dan Haseltine with Jars of Clay. One of the other things that's a great passion of mine and the rest of my bandmates has been getting to know people in Africa. We've connected with people in Africa starting in 2002 when we took a trip and simply sat across the table with people and heard their stories, what they were dealing with, how they were living in the midst of poverty and disease. And it was amazing. It was amazing to sit and hear them explain the things that they wanted to do in their communities, to hear their hopes and their dreams. And it sparked in us a desire to help them, to be able to support them. And I feel like what has happened with Blood Water Mission is it's become kind of different than a lot of organizations because we really have started by listening. We're not going over as people from the West saying we know better than you simply because we have resources. What we're doing is going over there and taking the ideas of people who are amazing, creative, wonderful, passionate people who simply lack certain resources, and we get to be part of giving those resources to them so they can build their communities. And it's really been humbling and an amazing education for us, because when we're in the midst of these communities in Africa, one of the things that we get to see is that God really is there, and God is providing in ways that I don't get to see very often here in America, simply because I don't rely on God for my most basic needs every day the way people in Africa do. And I think it's a very foundational element of being a believer, being someone who cares very much about the gospel, to know where suffering, where need, where pain, where these things all fit into the gospel story. The first time I heard about it was in China, when we were learning about what pastors in the underground church in China had to deal with. And one of the things that they were constantly saying is that they didn't want the tortures and the beatings and all of the injustice to stop. What they wanted was for God to continue to show up. And that's a very different perspective than I had coming from the West. Because as a Westerner, I thought, oh, I want to make it more comfortable for these people. I want them to not have to deal with that sort of pain or that sort of suffering. And the reality is that just removing somebody's pain or suffering is not really creating justice. True justice is actually knowing God, seeing that God is in the midst of these situations and watching God show up, and then knowing Him more deeply. And that's what these people in China were asking for. That's what these people in Africa are praying for. And so it's been a really amazing education for me, for the rest of the guys in the band, just to dig into the stories of people who live very differently, but also share some of the same passions, same loves for music and dancing and games, and seeing how our worlds can connect and how we can be transformed in each other's lives.